So this video is going to be about two separate vegans. They're not really talking about the exact same thing, but I feel like the sentiment is kind of the same. It's like these vegans reacting to common arguments they get, which seem to be related to when you're pushing this vegan thing, you're pushing something very, it seems to a lot of people, anti-indigenous. It's giving colonizer, it's giving all that. And these two vegans, these two very smug, look at the lady here. I mean, it's just a smug, superior look. Yeah. Anyway, we'll read what she wrote here. I'm not going to play the audio because it's just copyrighted music. And then we'll get to the other lady saying something similar about veganism just being so, regular. It's not. It's not. It is giving anti-indigenous. It is giving colonizer. It is giving we're superior and we know better than everybody's ever known. That it is what it is. Okay. So let's get to the posts and the comments. I got to make this bigger because I'm just going to read what she wrote here. She says, veganism is anti-indigenous is a talking point non-indigenous people use to avoid accountability, as if we have to be accountable to vegans. And it's literally the noble savage trope. It assumes we all hunt and fish. So she's saying we, like she's an indigenous person. I don't know. We all hunt and fish, erasing indigenous vegans. What indigenous vegans? Where are the indigenous vegans? It would be easy to not erase them if you would write their name up there, because you're also erasing them by not naming them, whoever they may be. Plant-based traditions. Plant-based is not vegan. And the fact that the meat and dairy industry is actively destroying indigenous lands, waters, and food systems. Using us as a shield. Oh yeah, she's saying us like she's an indigenous lady, I guess. While buying your meat from the grocery store is tokenism. What? We are not your excuse. Okay, sure, lady, sure. Okay, but what about them? What about them? Are you them? Is that your case? If not, then stop using indigenous people as an excuse. Is this her post? Yeah, this is what she wrote. Why you walk past the black beans, tofu, lentils. No, it's not. People don't want to eat that all the time. And other affordable. What does affordable have to do with any of this argument? Affordable plant-based protein options in your grocery store to get overpriced ground beef from a corporation that's destroying the Amazon rainforest to mass produce the cows y'all can't stop eating. She's saying y'all like in English, but I don't know. Where are all the vegans going and doing their activism in China? Do you know 48 to 50% of total Brazilian beef exports, or the beef that's coming from the Amazon, is going to China and Hong Kong, United States, 8 to 10% of total exports. I don't know. Is there a big vegan movement going on over in China? I've never really heard of that. Anyway, let's see what the people have to say. They never care about indigenous people until it's a gotcha towards vegans. Oh, wow. I mean, whatever you say. It's really, these people are not considering going vegan. They're asking you to think about what you're saying when you're trying to push and promote veganism. They're asking you to consider what it is you actually push and promote, telling people to buy beans and lentils instead of eating their local foods. Okay, sure, but the concept of you expecting people to take accountability for eating a cheeseburger is effing hilarious. I mean, look at her face. She thinks she's the one that you need to go and be accountable to. That's why no one wants to be vegan. It's very smug, it's very superior, and they look at you like they're judging you all the time, because they are judging you. Can't have, sorry, I'm having a hard time scrolling. My mouse is like not cooperating with this recording software. Okay. Can't have any ethical system under capitalism. That includes plant-based. Start there. It's all connected. Yeah, well, that is true. She's talking like the lentils and beans and all that is grown in some, nice way where the animals aren't also being exploited and killed, and they're killing off the trillions and quadrillions of insects, and they're out there shooting the deer and shooting the pigs and shooting the bunny rabbits and shooting the wild boar. Stop it. Okay. I am indigenous. Wait, hold on. I don't want to read. There's no ethical system. We don't try. At this point, a lot of people feel like trying is stupid. They're like, look, they want to enjoy their lives and they're not going to make any difference because of capitalism. They just want to enjoy their lives and not wind up sick, and on top of trying to fight capitalism, be in the hospital and then in the dentist's office and all that all the time, like what happens when you go vegan. Okay. I'm indigenous and have seen many influencer vegans say that my way of life is wrong. We hunt and fish in traditional ways that honor the entire animal. It feels integral for me to participate in my culture and community and to eat meat It's nothing like factory farming. Yeah, I don't know what the vegans have to say about people like this. I think they're trying to say these type of people don't exist and you need to go to the store and buy lentils and quinoa. Many vegans these days don't want to harm reduction. They want purity. Well, a lot of them are explicitly saying that it's not about suffering. It's not about harm. It's not about the number of deaths. It's about being a pure non-animal exploiter, which leaves a lot of leeway for other things. They want perfection. It's just supremacy disguised as something good for the earth. Look, I'm gonna get to the other post where the lady kind of talks about it a little bit more about how people are saying veganism is like a racial thing, or they think that it's you know it's giving colonizer. I'm trying to scroll down. There's way too many replies for this. I should never expanded it. People conveniently forget that indigenous communities have a deep history of agricultural development as well. Where did our corn and beans come from? Okay, I don't know what that has to do with anything. Just eat a steak. Not some of y'all proving me right and cope. This is the lady that made the post, Hill and Hill, whatever her name is. Not some of y'all proving me right and coping so hard in these comments. Anyways, eat more plants and reduce your meat and dairy intake if you have the means to. Okay, well, that's not vegan. Go vegetarian/vegan. The meat and dairy industries are part of capitalism, which is destroying our planet. You vote with your dollar. Yeah. Even if people were to believe that being a part of veganism is going to save the planet, they're going to be vegan and they're going to be unsatisfied. Let's not even get into the whole way that you feel physically when you cut out all the meat and all the animal foods, and don't try to lie and tell us, well, beans and rice, beans and rice, beans and rice, beans and rice, beans and rice. You can eat their cheapest food ever. You eat nothing but beans and rice. There are people that have never been vegan and they had to reduce to eating beans and rice and pasta out of budget. And they know that after a few weeks, months, whatever, you start to feel terrible on that. You start to feel sickly on that. Okay. So stop it. It's not enjoyable. There's nothing enjoyable about it. So they're putting up this sacrificing their favorite foods while they go vegan for an entire year just to wipe out 1/50th of the next bomb that somebody's going to drop tomorrow. So they don't want to do this. Okay. People don't want to do this. It's not worth it at this stage to be trying to even be promoting veganism and looking smug. This is why you're a vegan, because you want to look at people like this. You want to feel like this because maybe nothing in your life makes you feel superior, and some people got to feel superior. So this is not the point people are trying to make when mentioning indigenous practices under a system without capital. The majority of people will be hunting and fishing and farming for their own food. The vegans don't want that because local requires meats. It does. That's why you can never be a vegan anywhere on the planet. You can't survive and be a vegan on wild foods anywhere out in the wilderness, but you can survive out in the wilderness if you know how to catch a fish and hunt and trap little animals and forage. You can identify plants. Then you can survive. That's the only way to survive. There's nowhere you can actually survive year round as a vegan. It's physically impossible on this planet. So therefore, you as a human are not supposed to be vegan. And it is giving colonizer, okay? The industrial means of production are unethical, and the way that they farm the plants also is unethical. So people could say, I'm going vegan because, because I don't even know if she really gave a reason why we should do this, because she's saying destroying the planet. That's not really vegan. Vegan is about the animals. They're white, so my voice here is secondary to indigenous voices, but this argument always bugs me. If someone's animal product consumption is mostly coming from factory farm and the global supply chains, the indigenous people hunt argument doesn't really hold up for me. Well, see, now you're trying to equate the person's argument to their personal actions, which they're acting like you can't argue about something in theory. Like you want everyone to become a vegan. You think that it's wrong for people to not be vegan, right? Because you're saying they need to take accountability. They need to take accountability to you. So you're saying that everyone across the board is wrong for not being a vegan and they need to take accountability. And of course, people are going to think about people that are outside of themselves that just can't do what you're asking them to take accountability for and not being a vegan. They can't be a vegan. So they want to know, what do you think about that? How do you feel about that? You feel like this, smug as ever. Okay. Okay. So I don't want to make this video too long. Let me get to the other post from the other lady. Oh, and they say, even setting aside, I was going to go to the other post, but I just noticed this sentence. Even setting aside the fact that indigenous people aren't a monolith and many don't hunt or fish, traditional hunting and fishing practices are different from industrial farming. Okay, so I want to know, because the lady that made the post, the smug lady right here, also said that indigenous groups, there are some that don't hunt or fish. So I'm trying to look it up. So I'm just going to ask Google. If you don't believe me, go. I can't open it up in this thing because I'm trying to make this quick, but go to Google and ask what indigenous groups did not hunt or fish. And they literally said no documented pre-colonial indigenous group completely abstained from both hunting and fishing. Wow. Why do people just make up sentences and just write them and just say them? Why do people just lie? Why do you just lie? That's why, oh, erasing indigenous vegans. Where's the indigenous vegans? They're erased because they were never written down. You can't pretend something was erased when it was never written down, it was never existing. And you wouldn't say it was erased because it's not there. It was never there to be erased. So you can't just say that the absence of them being there means they were erased because they just were never there in the first place. You smug, annoying vegans. They just lie. Wow, wow. Okay. Anyway, until you can name at least a handful of groups that were indigenous vegans that never hunted and fished, then you can please stop it. Stop it. Anyway, and an indigenous group is not a group of adult men that decided they wanted to go and be monks, which we'll get into this in the next post. Let me open up the next post, y'all. All right, and the last one that I'm going to show you is from this account called The Chinese Vegan. This lady literally has posts like this: meat consumption is one of mankind's greatest atrocities, she says. Okay, so let's click on her post that came right before it. Eating meat, what is this thing called? Eating meat, especially the way we do today, scroll down, is an extension of colonialism. And she's going to try to argue that that's not the case. But then she's saying meat consumption is one of mankind's greatest atrocities. Okay. Anyway, let's click on this and see what she got to say. I think this one I might be able to play the audio. Hold on. You can see what she said right there. Is the audio on? I think it is.
Don't you know it imposes Western ideals on people of color? Pause. Let's put our thinking hats on. Because not only did veganism originate in ancient India and from Buddhist practices of nonviolence and compassion, I'd argue eating meat is an extension of colonialism. Did you know pre-colonial...
She's actually playing a song that is definitely copyrighted, so I'm gonna have to mute it and we'll have to read what she has to say. But she's saying, oh, veganism is in monks in India and stuff like that. Where were those people up there talking about meat being the greatest atrocity of mankind? Where were they sitting up there judging other people? And I can see if it's just some vegan off on their own talking about how they think that it's so great and stuff like that. But where are these people pushing and promoting it to the masses? Where are they out there criticizing people for not being a vegan? And some of those people were not even vegan. They were eating dairy products and they were eating meat. As long as they didn't see the meat getting killed and as long as they it was donated to them, and they would eat it. So stop it. Pre-colonial diets and many African and indigenous cultures relied heavily on plants. That's not vegan. And that's what vegans like to do. They like to pretend that vegan is just, plant-leaning plant. And you're going to pretend that it has nothing to do with you being an actual vegan. It's like vegans know the definition of veganism until it comes to arguments like these. Then you want to try to make it about plants and how much plants people eat. People were in Africa practicing cannibalism. So stop it. And eating apes. Stop it. They're doing it right now. Did you know that they used to rely heavily on plants? And that's what vegan is. It's just relying heavily on plants. But then you want to say that eating meat was a atrocity and all that. They weren't vegan. This history has been slowly erased. Stop it. I swear. And let someone say, oh no, I'm vegan because I just, rely heavily on plants. Well, I'll eat a burger here and there, but I'm vegan. You know what being a vegan is. Vegan is... Google said there was no pre-colonial groups, none, that did not rely on hunting and fishing at all. And the vegans are trying to erase that. They're trying to erase real history. As European colonizers introduced cows and pigs, over time normalizing meat-centric diets around the world. Yeah, she's trying to make it to be about the percentages and the proportions of how much meat you eat. Why do you use the word vegan then? Why don't you use the word plant-based? Huh? Globally, 94% of meat, dairy, eggs comes from factory farms. Yeah. Just like a lot of your plant foods comes from large agricultural industry where they shoot animals and poison animals. So stop it. Tons of manure and methane. Oh yeah, you want people to do this for the environment again. A lot of these people that talk about indigenous stuff where it was, people relied heavily on plants and they're trying to erase that history. They're still relying heavily on plants in a lot of those places. They still are. But guess what? They still eat meat and they're still out there eating bush meat. Okay? So stop it. And they're fishing every single day. Every single day. They're fishing. They're out there on their boat every single day, 7 days a week. Stop. These farms are located not in white neighborhoods, leading cause of deforestation. I don't assume that there's a large scale factory farm in a neighborhood. That doesn't really seem to be, it might be near neighborhoods, but it's not going to be in a neighborhood. Decimating indigenous lands, undocumented workers do the job that nobody else will do. Tell me again how veganism is rooted in, yeah, but you didn't talk about veganism. You talked about being more plant, a diet more in plants versus not. That really try to go to any of those groups and tell them that they're evil and wrong and they're doing atrocious things by eating animals. There's people out there literally starving. I saw a video the other day. People in Africa, they're making burgers out of mosquitoes. So go tell them that they're evil and all that because they are not eating. Africa used to be plant focused. Stop it. Stop it. Okay, let me look at the comments here. I don't know what BIPOC means. She'll make a video talking about the connections between veganism and Asian culture, religion, and values. Actually, it's just religion, so stop it. I don't care about any of this that she's writing. Oh, facts, sister, Michelle from China. People are tearing up meat in China. China eats tons of meat. China don't give a damn about animals. Are you kidding me? China does not care about animals. They're eating animals. Animals upon animals upon animals. And eggs. They got cheap eggs in China. Okay. Amsterdam banned meat advertisement. Get on board. Get on board. Consuming, and people are still going to buy it. You don't need the advertisement to know that you want to eat some meat. Consuming animal products is a saying this is for, I'm not going to say it because I don't know if YouTube is going to come for me. Of course, nobody wants to talk about that. How is that a supremacist practice when people were already eating animal products and hunting animal products before they even knew that people of the such group that you're saying supremacists even existed? Because you're all actually mentally insane. A lot of you vegans, you really, really need help. They ignored Middle East, Persians, Arabs, Egyptians, because it's the birthplace of animal husbandry. Of course, they're going to ignore the entire world and focus on groups of grown adult men that decided they wanted to go and follow a religion that they probably don't eat as many animal products. It's not an indigenous society. It's not a group of people where people are having families and women are getting pregnant, giving birth, and raising their kids this way. They need to stop their lies. They like to lie. They lie all the time. They say meat is very important. Meat is very important for a lot of groups. Veganism is not an extension of colonialism, and neither is eating meat. I wouldn't say that veganism is a part of colonialism, but people are saying that it's giving colonizer, but that's because, like, the reason why they're saying that, I don't think it has anything to do with any actual physical, real, actual colonialism and being a colonizer. But I think the reason why people are feeling like it's giving that is because they're going to people that are eating the way that they've always eaten, living the way they've always lived, which was not being a vegan. And they're telling them that we know better and the way that you've always been doing things is wrong and you need to do it our way and do that. But you're not going to colonize our kitchens. Yeah. Indigenous diets that quote unquote rely heavily on plants do not equate to veganism. She's not going to understand that. This is a plant-based lady, and the other lady too. They call themselves vegan, but they're actually plant-based. As soon as you want to bring up, well, this society, they ate lots of plants. That has absolutely nothing to do with veganism. If you eat lots of plants all day and at the end of the night you settle down to a steak, are you now vegan? I ate bananas for breakfast and I ate apples for lunch and I had beans and rice for my second lunch because I was hungry. And then for my fifth lunch, I had seitan and tofu. And then at night, I just had, a couple chunks of stew meat and tallow. What does that have to do with being a vegan? Nothing. Okay. Throughout history, diets of civilizations and cultures always been primarily based upon geographical location. Yeah, vegans don't care about that. They use a culture that grew up in an area, not grew up, but was living in an area where they could eat more plants as some type of an argument for veganism, which has nothing to do with each other at all. India has the most amount of vegans by population. Well, that doesn't surprise me. But it's still probably not even 15%. As someone with Native American descent, my grandmother is full Washo. People love to bring up indigenous practices and their way of life. The second an argument of eating meat comes up, I'm vegan and indigenous. I think when people talk about someone being indigenous, I think they're talking about people that are living in an indigenous way. They don't mean like, oh, my grandmother is indigenous and I shop at Sprouts like that. I don't think that's what they're talking about. I don't think vegans understand anything, y'all. They say, oh, my grandma's full-blooded whatever, and I go to Whole Foods. Okay, you don't understand the argument. You don't understand what they're trying to say. And it's not really worthwhile to sit up here and try to talk to vegans because they're just going to say, my great granny was full-blooded whatever, and whenever I go to Walmart, I buy beans and rice, and I'm indigenous. That's not what they mean by indigenous, okay? They don't mean of indigenous descent. They probably mean that people are living in an indigenous way and trying to respect indigenous practices, trying to remember and trying to retain indigenous practices in some way, shape, or form. Or that's just the way they live their life because that's easy, that's local, that's what's been passed down. But you sitting up here saying, "Oh, well, I'm indigenous, and when I went to Target, I got a bag of dates and bananas. It was really cheap." Okay, great. You got your dates from Morocco, wherever they came from. Wonderful. Okay. So anyway, I will end this video now. You can let me know what you think in the comments, and I have more thoughts on this, but I just don't want this video to go on forever. Okay, that's it.